Hi everybody, welcome back. This is your Sage Thyme. I'm Lillian, and we are here today to deliver messages related to the scorpionic aspect of you and your life, and you can know a bit more about that by understanding and recognizing its influence in your natal chart, or simply by being here, being present and engaged within yourself and in the listening of the messages that are being delivered exactly how they're meant to be delivered for you. It's always a beautiful thing to listen to a person's message and then observe how many different ways, very different ways, that same message is interpreted by each individual. And even listening to this, of course, in a month from now or a year from now, the message is like a good book. When you open it up again, something that inspired you back in your teens or 20s, and then you're in your 60s or 80s or 30s, whatever. You open it up and the book unfolds itself and unfurls itself in a totally different way. So that's what we're doing here, and it feels very scorpionic. Got a little tickle. It feels very scorpionic because Scorpio energy to me is about that deep dive into the depths and the darknesses, and just like pirates hunting for treasure, and they follow this treasure map, and that can be analogous to following the treasure map within yourself, and they end up finding X marks the spot in some cavernous, in the middle of the ocean type of situation, and they go in this cavern and down the waters, and they realize, oh, the X that marks the spot is in the water. And then they have to, after finding this cavern in the middle of nowhere, the vast spaces within our own beingness, they have to dive deep into the depths, into the dark, dark, dark waters, where things can be murky and spooky because they're different and more intense. There's a pressurization, and there's a vacuousness of sound, and yet that silence becomes so pronounced. These are aspects of scorpionic nature. And if we're not careful, we can lose ourselves. We can lose what we came there for, a treasure, a gem, to bring back to the surface and into our regular lives, to make our lives and those who helped us on that treasure hunt, to make those lives better. And that's where the deep depths of scorpionic elevate into the higher octaves of Scorpio, which are symbolized by the eagle, that high, acute perspective that knows the depths and is reminded by the crows, who often chase the eagle, of those depths, such that the eagle doesn't get caught up in his hubris of the heights and the elevation. And so these are the things that we talk about and we reflect on with the scorpionic nature of ourselves. And the timing of me reaching Scorpio sign is really, really wonderful with the astrology. So I'm going to go over the astrology briefly. Today's message is very complex and big, and there are multiple influences. Okay. Before I do the astrology, I am being tapped again and again by the influences that are with us today. It was made very clear to me that I spend time and energy in attributing the influences that are most participatory in these messages. And I've done that in many ways. You'll always see in the description box of the video a list of the stones, that'll come up, or plant medicines, as well as the cards, the decks that I use, and so forth. But today I was instructed to write them all down, specifically who's involved. We'll see why. Some are obvious, but so you might be listening or hearing in the background some beautiful handpan music. Obviously, I want to give thanks to this individual. His name is Malte Martin, and he has a YouTube channel. The spelling will be listed in the description, and you can check him out and everything about him. He is just spectacular. So check out Malte Martin's hand drum. Yeah, the mischievousness. So the Fae are here. They've been really present in my life. They always are. But they're coming forward in new classifications, apparently. They're showing themselves more in new layers of themselves and classifications. And they really wanted me to clearly state that there are 2 to 3 different Fae worlds that are moving in and out of this reading, and they very much wanted to be present for this reading today, when it was going to be more of a transformative reading. When I chose to hone in on the Scorpio sign constellation, there was a influx, as they like to do, and there's more, but the Fae really want to be acknowledged. Also, our stone today that is participating with us is Blue Calcite. Incredible. I love this stone. It came up yesterday for me, and I wasn't even going to use the stone, and it definitely pronounced itself and wanted to be a part of this. A little bit that came up about Blue Calcite that seems to really be beneficial, especially with the astrology that we'll talk about, is that it's calming to the nervous system, and it promotes peace and tranquility. And then I also saw just quick searches and what highlighted itself on as I was looking it up. It's also very useful in meditation and in communication, and that's a big one today. And in fact, having that peace and serenity and calm in our communication, working with the piezoelectricity of Blue Calcite and with the requirements of meditation and breath work. Again, very important for the energies of the collective, the astrology right now, and especially there's been a lot of conversation in the air with me today about the energies that are coming up. And we'll talk about that more here. And then last but not least, featured in our participants, as well as the decks, which you'll see in the description box. But I'm using an essential oil blend by Young Living, of course. It's called One Heart. I'll show it to you here. It's kind of hard to see in the glare. There's a list of ingredients that are layered very specifically, not just thrown into a bottle. The top ones that came up that I wanted to bring up are that's in this One Heart blend are essential oils from lemon, ylang ylang, Northern Lights blue spruce, lime, Roman chamomile, and jasmine. Okay, so everybody's been acknowledged. It almost feels silly because I always acknowledge participants, but I don't ever feel so promptly, we'll use the word encouraged, strongly encouraged to take a moment to do it so emphatically. It feels kind of a commercially sort of thing, so forgive me, I'll work on the tones of that. Okay, Scorpio aspects, all of you. So we've got the astrology today. Right now, we've got Jupiter in its ingress into the sign of Cancer. I'm using popular astrology instead of Vedic astrology. So Jupiter ingressing into the sign of Cancer is being squared upon by a conjunction of Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Saturn and Neptune just entered Aries recently, as you probably know. And those two together in Pisces were really cleaning up a lot of muck and confusion and just a lot of cosmic information being able to be brought in and distilled and compartmentalized so that it could be utilized in Aries a bunch more. And it is, Saturn and Neptune are already starting to get their sea legs, or we should say their earth legs, as they're navigating how to bring those joined energies that they've spent the last couple years in Neptune with together now into an actionable and physical presentation of Aries. But when it's squaring on Jupiter in Cancer, as well as Mercury loosely now, Mercury's breaking free of that a little bit, but still in Cancer, there's this energy of types of communication. So one that are not of the most pleasant nature. However, they're there for a purpose to bring about a breakthrough. Forgive me, I forgot to turn off a connective feature here. Technology. Okay, so we've got this elusivity of Neptune in the heat, in the hot seat of Aries, with Saturn, who's experiencing some lower octaves of himself. He's feeling into this, I've got to break out of the old paradigm, and I've got to be a better form of routine and self-discipline and structure. And now that I'm in Aries and I've spent time in this vast realm of Pisces, it's time to put, the rubber to the road, so to speak. But Saturn's kind of forgetting himself a little bit. He's forgetting what he learned in the collective connectiveness of the heart and the emotions and the consciousness of everything. And he's back in that self-identification, ego, persona. And so he's oscillating back and forth between I'm a better masculine to old habits die hard, and for that forgetfulness as well, coming into that incarnation, the first sign of the zodiac being Aries, the I am, the existing, the identification. And Neptune's kind of confusing things. I believe it feels feminine right now. She feels like she's kind of stepped too far away from home, which is the everything, into this incarnation too quickly, even though she's moving slowly. And so she's just kind of throwing it all out and agitating Saturn, and then pulling that square on the diplomatic and let's bring things to balance and betterment aspect of Jupiter entering Cancer, a sign that speaks of home and nurturing and maternal. And again, with Mercury's communication being in Cancer, not a strong constellation for Mercury to be in. Mercury's feeling that square pull from some of the more jagged-edged, poisoned style aspects of Saturn and Neptune. So we're hearing things like gossip, we're hearing things like slander, we're hearing things like talking shit about other people, maybe even feeling the that energy within us and the impulse to participate in it, or not noticing the psychic influence of it and it running its racket through our head, maybe while we're doing busy work, gardening or, hauling heavy things, doing physical exertion type of things with these high octane energies can start to shake and rattle the crevices of our within still contained aspects of anger and betrayal and betrayal of humanity type situations. Things that are not only personal, like this sign of Cancer, it's global and cosmic. These types of behaviors that are so and social constructs and acceptability paradigms that are so contradictory to what is truly humane, what is truly in that one heart. It's dismissive and it's betraying, and most importantly, it doesn't work. So when we get past or open up into the emotions of what the heck, enough with this paradigm and that of marginalizing and subjugating and harming and taking. And also, why are we doing this? It doesn't make sense, and we don't need to. None of these things need to be happening. There is a better way. And, we're seeing that right now with the escalations of protests with the current presidential situation and deportation and things like that. Oh, I can feel just all that wanting to come in, just speaking the word of it. Again, words are so powerful. Mercury pays attention in the consciousness. That's an interesting alarm of Cancer in the consciousness of Cancer. And the alarm's really lifting that up. Another thing that you might be noticing is that there's more external world banging and clanging, maybe construction nearby you, or just those harsh, impactful and shocking to the nervous system, whether it's individuals or construction or I don't know what. But it's the same external fractaline holographic example of what's going on internally. So the deeper we go, this is the advice. Scorpio says go deep. If you see it out there, it's in here. Go deep. There's a treasure to be found. And the map that has X that marks the spot, it's in you. You know how to find it. You know how to get there. Now allow that remembering of knowing to enter and show itself and reveal itself. It's always there. Okay, let's get into some cards. I drew a few Brian Froud fake cards. They flew out, really. Before we get into those, so I wanted to spend a moment with those. Let's do an overall reading, or overall card. There we go. From the Sacred Earth Oracle. And you guys, hopefully I'll remember to read the passage at the end if it doesn't take too long. So we've got the card Revolution. Oh, my heart is just leaping with joy at how profound the energies and the conversations in the ether want to be heard and articulated. And that's for you too. Get your alignment as best you can and keep returning yourself to it with your breath work, with your returning home within work. to maintain that breath work. So when these energies of revolution are swirling all around you and within you and through you, you can alchemize them and also utilize them as landmarks to find your hidden treasure deep within, because they will guide you and direct you. They're here for a reason, you guys. All the horrific things that humans can do to one another, or just the very devastating things that life brings about, the natural world, just life existing, they're all here as landmarks and direction signs and highlights and illuminations to us finding those deep treasures within and pulling them up. Revolution, baby. Yeah, that's what we're about. Okay, so Brian Froud. Here we go. The first card that came out is the Journeyman, number 15. Love this card. Love these friends. You can see the Journeyman. He's on his own. He's all alone. He's stripped bare with nothing more than a stick and a ball. He doesn't even have a satchel at the end of his stick filled with his most needed things. Nope, he's naked and he's free. He's liberated. And at the end of the stick, along his shoulder, he carries a sphere that contains any world that reveals itself, that chooses to reveal itself. And the world that reveals itself for him at any given time attunes with his pace, with his walking, with his steps, where he goes, how he places his feet on each step of the ground. And here, instead of the ground, he actually is walking upon the head of another. That other is somebody that he doesn't see necessarily, and yet he sees him in his heart and in his awareness. This individual that is placing himself below each one of his steps represents not just the path and the world that we walk on, but all those that came before us, that created that path so that we may walk it better. And so that we may, when we make mistakes, remember forgiveness, including forgiveness to those before us. That's the message. I felt the well of tears. So when the Journeyman came out, first and foremost, on its own, I thought, cool, the Journeyman. Where are we going, guys? And then, 3 cards flew out. And here was the first one. Here's where we're going. Death. Yes. Yes, I hear. Yes. And you can see here, Death holds a globe within her hands as well. A little darker, but still illuminated within to show different parts of the world within. And she is saying, it's time, Journeyman. It's time to go deep. It's time to do another cycle. And you may be one of those people whom I very much can relate to, where you're doing death and rebirth cycles, smaller yet incredibly potent on a regular day or weekly basis, and those can take a few days or weeks. Of course, the bigger death cycles take longer and involve other things as well. But these deep inner ongoing cyclical cycles, ones that can be illustrated in their timing with things like the astrology that's moving, because the planets and the asteroids are like hands of a clock, and a clock that's very multidimensional. Excuse me. I've got my little ninja and greens juice today. So death is taking us into the cave and saying, okay, now dive into the waters within this cave, this cavern, and go deep. We're going to shade the eyes and cover all your expressions of self-identification, stripping you bare and naked. And please always remember that each step that you take, we are lifting ahead, lifting something to support you. So the other two cards that came out with death came out together. And I thought at first it was an either-or situation. And it quickly said, of course, in the nature of the Fae, either or and both. So here we have, I'll give you the image, Penelope and Doom and Gloom. Two very contrasting images, energies, messages, exemplifications of self. And Penelope, the Penelope Dreamweaver, she wanted to be read. So we're going to do this. Okay. In this painting, Brian Froud, the creator of these cards and the communicator with the Fae, in this painting, Brian has shown us Penelope, his own inspiration fairy. But we each have one who is more than willing to help us. It's an interesting, we have one. We have an inspiration fairy. Mine says to call her Grace, because she says she isn't exactly someone I deserve. How very Fae, I love it. Just someone I'm lucky enough to have in my life. She plays hard at inspiring, as does Penelope with Brian. Penelope says she is very pleased with Brian's results of her inspirations. But when I looked hopefully at Grace to see what she thinks about me, she just shrugs her shoulders. I should mention the person who's writing this is a partner with Brian. So her inspiration Fae, Grace, just shrugs her shoulders. Then she flashes me a wicked grin, so I think it is all right. Inspiration fairies like their jobs, but they get really bored when people don't pay attention to them. Then they sit around and file their fingernails while they think troublesome and mischievous thoughts. Sometimes they get exasperated enough to send us nightmares in an attempt to get us to wake up. And not just nightmares in our sleep dreams, nightmares in our wake dreams. And we're seeing that outside in the world. If we're not waking up enough, even if we think that we're the ones who are awake and nobody else is around us, we're not awake enough if our awokeness, if our awokeness isn't shaking and rattling to the core of the depths where all the treasures are within everybody else. And they are. We're seeing that because the awakening process is dirty and ugly and at times aggressive and sometimes worse than that. It's nasty. It's a birthing process, and birthing isn't pretty. And so they'll send us our nightmares. It goes on to say these fairies and their sisters, the fairies of expression, work together as teams, helping us in our creative endeavors. The fairies of inspiration sprinkle us with special inspirational fairy dust so that we come up with ideas. They quote, "Rather like fertilizing a plant, and you know what plants are fertilized with," Grace says. Then, their sisters, the fairies of expression, help us to give form to our creativity, manifesting it with our particular talents. So Penelope Dreamweaver is showing up here today to say this is the action of This is the action of Neptune and Saturn promenading together from Pisces into Aries, putting our inspiration into action. Aries is an actionable sign constellation. It houses Mars, who's more active and creative when he's in his higher octave than Mars. But when he's not, when he's in that lower octave, because he's shaking the foundation and waking up, he gets pressurized, right? Moving through the birth canal, there's a pressurization, and it pisses him off, and he gets a little warlike, shall we say. And there was something else that wanted to come through with that. Oh, I'm being reminded to bring up Black Moon Lilith, who is in fact in Scorpio right now at 8 degrees. And she is in a beautiful water trine with Mercury in Cancer being affected by everybody else. Now, Mercury in Cancer is also in a sextile, a beneficial aspect with Venus in her home sign of Taurus. And we could almost say that Venus in Taurus and Lilith in Scorpio are in both their home signs. They're in their supportive and beneficiary houses, signs. And so Scorpio's saying to Black Moon Lilith, you've been through the ringer here, and you've grown and evolved in terms of right reciprocity, right relationship. Remember, Lilith was required by the Christian God of the Bible stories she was the first wife of Adam, made of the same stuff, not made of one another. And she was required to subordinate herself in all manners to her husband, Adam, and she refused. And so she was demonized, cast out. And in many ways, she became what she was gossiped about, the gaslighting, the slandering. She became that at some part of her journey. And then she said, this isn't me. But there's a part of it that is, that darkness that was imposed upon her, those jagged, poisoned edges that were the daggers that were constantly thrown at her from other people's misunderstandings and fears, their own depths and darks of their scorpionic and plutonic nature, not having been attended to, opened up, found the treasure within, and then shaped and smoothed accordingly. So she decided, instead of reinventing herself and making herself something she's not, she's going to use creatively what was imposed upon her, all that rage and anger and marginalization and abuse and all the things. And she took that darkness and she created from a place of an evolved love. She connected with the maternal within her, the great heart of the cosmic mother. And she allowed herself to go into those depths of herself where the pressurization had turned all the broken down materials within her into coal and then compressed into diamonds. And she pulled those out and said, who are you within me? And those parts of her said, we are clear, we are brilliant, we have very, very bold and innovative and honest and honorable aspects of who we are within her. And we choose to shine that, but not BS around it. And so when an archetype like Black Moon Lilith comes forward and says, love is the answer, balance is the answer, right relationship and reciprocity is the answer, you feel it, you know it. You feel it and know it from her because she's lived it. She's done the work in every minute detail possible, and she's come out clear and brilliant and true in ways that nobody who hasn't done that work, who hasn't been through those pains and those trials, those abuses and oppressions, nobody who hasn't been through that in the way that they have or she has can access diamonds until they've done that work and they've been through what they've been through. So Black Moon Lilith is making a consciousness with emotion, trine with Mercury in Cancer, that maternal, and saying this is what is to be said. This is what is to be understood within the consciousness and how it's to be interpreted. Mercury is also about translation and interpretation. And Venus in Taurus, she has a history. She's been through Venus and Nana, also in other incarnation names. She's been through the 7 gates of hell with her sister, governing in Gilgamesh, governing in the underworld. She knows what has to be done. She hasn't been through it like Black Moon Lilith, but she's been through it in her own way. She's in her home sign, Taurus, growth, life, Earth, Gaia, Amma, our planetary home. And she's saying yes to what Lilith says, and also I've got some things to say too. And Mercury's in this house of this feminine, watery, cancery, and going, yes, mothers, yes, sisters, yes, aunties, yes, grandmothers, I'm listening, I will speak for you. And so Mercury's normally very fast, but it's taking its time being slowed down in those etheric waters, but waters that aren't so far out like Pisces, or so down deep that it's hard to bring into words that are relatable for the collective. Mercury's able to do that. And today, being in an opposition with the moon in Capricorn, opposite to Mercury in Cancer. You know, the moon is, again, can be emotions, but also facades, the lies, the wrapping up truth with enough lies, or lies with enough truth to make it just yuck. I mean, honestly. So the moon is reminding in its opposition in Capricorn that the old structures, the outdated, the mountain that's crumbling apart to take a new shape. The moon is reminding Mercury there's still a lot of bovine excrement, a lot of illusion, a lot of dishonesty. So I'm going to reflect that back to you. Remember it. You don't have to fight it or punch it in the face. Just be reminded of it, and then go back to the heart. Connect with that Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio's treasure hunt for her own compressed charcoal into diamonds. Remember the nurturing earth life and co-creative ecosystems of Venus and Taurus, and let's work together for that. So the moon is serving a purpose. It's not being deceitful. It's reflecting and illuminating the deceit so that we can, instead of getting caught up in the emotions, and we can, and that's okay, but returning back to home base, clarity, opening up to greater truths and letting that come forward. Okay, yeah. All right, so also, because Penelope Dreamweaver, she says, can seem like such a contrast to our doom and gloom fellow, she feels we ought to read his full script too, because he's just important. And I can hear him saying, but I'm not, it's okay, it's very Eeyore, right? I don't really have anything so important to say. I just kind of don't know why I'm here. Maybe I'll go lay down. But he's not even seeing, like, yeah, he's standing on the pathway made by others holding it. And he's got at the tips of his fingers this incredible light, as he's also holding a globe, again, a sphere. when it looked into, can show the world that he's walking upon. And this doom and gloom that he's carrying as an embodiment is creating this extraordinary healing light at the tips of his fingers. You know, I mentioned the word piezoelectric, and I don't normally say that word with the blue calcite. In fact, they match. Let's see if I can get the color in right. We have, scientific imaging has shown for a long time, you know, one of the reasons why touch is so phenomenal and healing touch can be so phenomenal is we have piezoelectric heightened receptors and transmitters on our fingertips. All right, let's read. So he has that. Gluminous Loom, that's his name. Thank you for that reminder. And I turned right to it. So here we go. The keywords here talk about self-defeat, self-pity, self-destruction, taking care of ourselves. Self-pity is the first step on the slippery, seductive slide towards self-destruction. Much of what I've said above about the soul shrinker, different card, applies to gluminous doom. So please read about the soul shrinker. Okay, that's fine. It may seem odd to have such a seemingly lightweight challenger as gluminous doom right next to the soul shrinker. But they are the closest of cousins. The soul shrinker observes the way we curse others. There's that nasty gossipy stuff. The soul shrinker observes, doesn't make us do it, the way we curse others through energy and through our attitude. So it's not just about verbalizing, it's being aware of the consciousness and of our thoughts and the energies that reside within us. Gluminous doom observes the way we curse ourselves. Going in those depths, you guys, finding those treasures deep within. Oh, my heart. In a way, thought, the part of ourselves that he witnesses, is worse than what the soul shrinker sees. When we curse others through sending the energy of malice and ill will toward them, they may reject our sendings. However, when we curse ourselves through self-pity and self-destruction attitudes, there is little, if any, resistance, and the curse takes immediate effect and continues to act until we change our attitudes. It's interesting, isn't it, how we can see at once that the soul shrinker is ugly, but gluminous doom has a certain charm, a kind of weird attractiveness. We feel sorry for him. He looks so pitiful, and there is another side to him that one Oracle group participant sees. And they said, I feel that gluminous doom is underrated as a helper. We mentioned that. He can be there for you when no one else wants to. The state of self-pity, when all seems terrible and the whole world is against you, is an important part of the process. Thank you. We all get down sometimes. You could say that we even need it to compare with when we feel good. Gluminous doom is ready and willing to help us explore just how awful it all feels, just how bad it all is, and how hard done by we feel, and what has made us feel like that in the first place. It is very important. You can hear my little dog. He's giving himself a back massage on the ground, on the carpet. He's very rejoicing by this message of gluminous doom. I think he wants me to hear it especially too, because I've struggled with this, as we all have, I'm sure. Okay, and what has made us feel like that in the first place? It is very important to really get to know these feelings, or how can you possibly let them go if you don't properly know them in the first place? Our feelings need to be fully acknowledged and understood. or we just tuck them away and hide them from sight until they appear again, maybe in a different guise. Gloominous doom helps us properly explore our gloomy feelings of doom so that we can be done with them. It is a very important job. The ultimate test here, of course, is to take responsibility for ourselves and our attitudes. And I want to disarm the word responsibility because I know that that's been weaponized for many of us growing up. Responsibility is the development and usage of our ability to respond within ourselves and then outside of ourselves. So if you felt a kick from that word, which I still do sometimes, hear it from the angle of the ability to respond. And I'll read it again. The ultimate test here, of course, is to take responsibility for ourselves and our attitudes, and to choose a path that is life-affirming, not life-denying. The sorrier we feel for ourselves, the worse our lives become. Reread that last sentence, please. It says, so we shall. The sorrier we feel for ourselves, the worse our life becomes. It's not the other way around. This is big for everything that's going on the global stage, within families and relationships, and within our own personal journey. Yeah. Self-pity makes things worse, and we do have a choice. One that we have every moment as to whether we want to make our lives better or not, or worse. And we can choose that for ourselves. And here's the tough part for me with the word choice. Yes, we do all have a choice. And choosing it the first time or the 500th time doesn't always mean the results are going to show up right then and there. It's a practice like taking these steps. Each step is a choice. In fact, let's compare. Luminous loom, even better. Luminous loom is taking steps, and he's choosing. He's got light at the tips of his fingers, and he knows he's holding the world. And let's say now he is choosing joy and creativity with our Penelope Dreamweaver. And with each step he says, I choose to create from joy and love and a sense of worthiness and a sense of capability. But he's still stepping on these googly goggly, misery steps. They're not very stable. They're not super great. The one he's on, though, in the moment that he says, I choose, it gets a bit stronger. And with each step and with each aware and present connection with the statement, I choose ... better, we start to see this happening. And I see this guy stripping all these layers that look like his form, but really they're an outfit that looks like his body, and he strips them down to become this guy. But there's a passageway. And in that passageway between is this. Climbing into a tent of no self, no thought release, holding that world at the heart and saying, what do I choose now with each step? And ultimately getting here. But remembering that this path, once we get here, there's still going to be times where this is going to show up, and that's okay. We know what to do because we've done the work. We've created the energetic muscle memory. And Penelope and all of her affiliates are dancing around and rejoicing right now. How fantastic. So let's before I close out, let's read a little bit from the Revolution card from our Sacred Earth Oracle. Thank you for being here, you guys, and sharing this with me, for providing me a container to share the wisdom and words and emotions of those that want to speak through me, as well as from my own experiences and my own interpretations. Okay. Here we go. It's a lot of our words. Boink. I'll bring this up here so you can have a nice view of it, and you can screenshot it if you want. Hope that's focused. Earthly meaning. Avoid comparison. It is neither too soon nor too late to claim your life for yourself. Right? I mean, there is no right way to live your life. There is no wrong way or set path to follow your path, or set pace to follow your path. The Wu Wei River. Be wary of false markers. How cool, because I brought that up before. So it's a good reminder to be wary of false markers. That moon illuminating the illusions or lies. It is not always time to harvest. Without periods of rest, the death card, planning, planting, even with soil that's fertilizer, we all know what that's made of, and nurture, there may be no harvest. The spiritual meaning here says, like invisible wheels, the season of life moves through an eternal cycle of death and rebirth. What appears to begin, rise, fall, away, and end is but a small part of an endless journey without any clear start or climax. In the bright stillness, ... of the divine mind, every journey flows through love. This is your journey. This is your time, your season. Shine. The burnt tones of leaves, short, snowy days, bright bursts of color, and long golden twilights mark the progress of Earth as it eclipses the sun. The seasons come and they go, days shorten and grow long again. If you do not know the winter, how shall you know the spring? In some parts of the world, winter never comes. Earth's revolution is noted more subtly, perhaps more intimately. The traditional people of Northern Australia and the Tiwi Islands acknowledge as many as 13 seasons, where the European settlers observe only the wet and the dry. The journey around the sun is the same for all of Earth, even for the North Pole, where a single night of winter lasts for 6 months. The progress is the same. The markers are different. In comparing your journey, your markers, your achievements to that of another, you might miss the signs that your season has come. Oh, my friends, thank you. Thank you to everybody who's here right now, in this moment, whichever moment that is, for each one of us. My love, your love, our love, we love. Aho.